Hey everybody, welcome to our recap of episode 3 of Netflix's Sense8. Francis, Kim, Bibbs, Alonso. Smart Money is on the skinny bitch, which Smart Money usually is, right?
Yeah.
They're very wiry. I don't know. What does that even mean? I don't know.
Mankiewicz needs to be here. He's the gambler.
Yeah.
I did not know that it's supposed to be pronounced zebra. That was my big takeaway from this.
I've been watching the show with my girlfriend, and every episode, during the credits, there's a shot of zebras fighting, and she was obsessed with the zebras fighting for like 3 episodes. When are we going to get to the zebras? Like, the zebras are going to be important, right?
These are all
metaphor. Well, and here's the thing. And then we talk about the zebras, and I'm like, now I get it. Now I see why, because he wants to be a zebra. But even zebras fight. Right. Maybe every shot in that thing is somehow a coded metaphor for something that'll happen.
It could be. I did discover that people will not be surprised to learn that I'm only 1 degree of friend away from one of the 2 guys eating ice cream in the opening credits.
Really?
Because I saw that, I'm like, if I don't know those guys, I know somebody who knows them, and I do. So
Can I say that I was pleasantly surprised when I seen, is it Sun?
Sun.
Yes.
She was the one that had the advanced fighting skills, which is amazing because when you watch the trailer, which is something that I just was grasping onto at this point, I was like, all right, this is cool, because when you see the trailer, you expect it either to be the cop or you expect that someone else to have this technical ability that someone else can utilize, but then when you find out it's basically one of the most vulnerable looking characters that has these unbelievable skills, that was cool. Very major success for me.
A lot of people would have cast her as the hacker or something, you know.
Yeah, many people would.
Yeah, well, I love the climax of this episode. The climax episode,
Are we gonna jump to
everything
it now?
starts coming together.
Sure.
Jump in.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Sun is your favorite character.
Sun became my favorite character, though I'm a little bit muddled between this episode and episode 4, where we understand why Sun has this other side of her and why she needs to go underground and do street fights and why is she so badass. And then we go back to her horrible family. Do all the main characters have daddy issues?
I was thinking about that. There are a lot of daddy issues
all
on this
of them
show.
seem to have it, except
cop,
maybe Riley doesn't.
Does everyone on this show have daddy issues? Like, I mean, like, is it just everyone has them? I don't know. I only know my own experience. Okay, you're fine. All right. So no, is in other words.
No, but you're right. I was thinking about that at one point because we find out about the cop, we find out about Nomi, and about. I guess the
Kala has her thing with her dad being proud of her,
but also kind of want to push her to the thing.
Van Damme just has a mom.
Yeah, Van Damme. We don't know about his dad.
Peed on his dad's grave. I mean, he definitely.
Wolfgang did. Totally. But Van Damme has it been mentioned?
Van Damme's father's out of the picture.
Yeah,
but
we don't know. He may have.
We're gonna find out.
Died of AIDS.
I don't know.
We don't know.
Or he's living happily somewhere else after a very amicable divorce.
Didn't he mention him though? Like when they were eating, like my father told me. Something.
My father may have said something once, but he's never really.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a little hard to keep everything straight.
Things. I mean, I was embarrassed to find out. Like when we talked about episode 1, I was like, "Who's having the hallucinations in San Francisco?" I was like, "Duh, of course, Nomi is." It was during the dance thing.
Right.
I just somehow didn't register that. But anyway, I love that there is underground kickboxing that Sun can just sign up for, and that apparently. She is, enough people know that she's a badass to bet on her, but the guy fighting her has not been clued in on this,
So,
missed that memo.
So as I mentioned in the last episode, I wasn't completely thrilled on it. I started to get more intrigued in it because I don't know if my mind was just wandering to this area, but you know how when Van Damme is down on the ground and he's looking to try and grab something to help him through it, and he's basically calling out to Sun saying help, is it supposed to mean that everyone has these sides of them basically in their character that they just need an extra push to basically
Well, we all need help.
Move outside of their shell or outside of their comfort zone.
So it's like, are you asking out, but everyone's on the outside?
I'm asking you guys,
the 8 or everybody?
I'm basically just asking for help on this idea because I watched this one. I realized I can watch. I realized that I can watch a full show with my face like this. Like I was like.
Well, you're
right
on that.
Thinking, what is going on? I'm just trying to figure out. But that scene, I was wondering if that's what the whole premise of the show is. That they might be linked, but everyone has this side of them somewhere.
That was a little confused. That was the first time I got confused. Like, can they see Sun kicking everyone's ass now at the end? But later we understand that no, this is their Sense8 ability.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need help sometimes. We've all been in terrible situations where maybe someone would be better equipped than us to handle it.
And that's that's almost like a bold thing now to ask someone for help.
To not be self-sufficient.
To not be entirely self-sufficient, to acknowledge that you're part of a greater whole and that maybe you don't have everything you need to survive and that maybe you do need someone's help, someone who you might not normally ask. Yeah. Not just like family, but just like a stranger. Would you help them? And I think that's, gosh, that's nice. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a very frou-frou sentiment, but I like it.
You talked about how in episode 2 you felt like they weren't giving us enough clues as to what the hell was going on, but I kind of like how they pepper in the little things like the cop sees Riley in the mirror, or the way they'll be in the same space and stuff. And so when they get to Van Damme needing Sun's help, I'm like, okay, I don't exactly know how this works or what's going on, but the show has prepared me enough to realize that this is how it's going to work. And obviously it takes getting to a certain mental state. Then they're going to learn how to do it consciously, but in the meantime, I think you have to be sort of driven to this extreme where you're half conscious and whatever, and then suddenly it's like, okay, look, Korean woman.
Drugs, or having a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
I don't said you have to let it happen, so maybe it's that point.
I don't want to look back to the Matrix all the time, but it's very Matrix-esque. I mean, come on, how is it not? Neo opens his eyes and suddenly everything's in code, and he's like, okay, now I know how to do this. So that's what I got the sense of, but.
You keep going back to the Matrix, and I know there's a lot of Cloud Atlas, but I'm just like, when is it going to go full Speed Racer? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping.
Please, no.
Yeah, nonstop Jupiter ascending.
How about
no.
Bound? Well, actually,
It's very bad.
We already were
we
there.
did have the slick dildo scene,
Yeah, but a bit
so.
more sex that comes through. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's what I'm saying. And I was like, so that's the part that I'm intrigued at. Is it Sun's ability coming through him in that, or is it just Sun's fearlessness that he's channeling?
I think it's specifically the ability.
I think
That's
So
a
is it-
very
that's what I mean,
specific fighting
Because in the next episode we're going to come up with another thing of a specific skill set that is being employed by one character from another character.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting is that a lot of these things, it just so happens that the cop was at a shooting range, and it just so happens that Sun was at a boxing tournament at the exact moment he needed to shoot and fight. What I'm wondering is that the sort of thing where it's like it actually needs to be physically taking place, or is that just a way to visualize the way that he now has the abilities of other people?
I think
Is
that
it
was
an actual
I think that-
mechanic, or is it just?
I think that was handy. Again, we're going to get into something in episode 4 where the regarding the cop and Nomi, where he just is there, and it's not that they were doing exactly the same thing. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'd be curious if anybody's paying like really close enough attention to make sure that all the time zones work.
Yeah, I was thinking about that myself.
It's broad daylight in Nairobi, but it's nighttime in Korea. But I guess that actually does make sense.
That could work.
So,
It's just the beginning of the night, end of the night.
Yeah. So just the things like that. I'm given the span of this show, I'm wondering if in some point in the process, like they just had like pins and a globe. You're like, okay, so if it's 10 a.m. in Chicago, then it's
Yeah, I'm not.
I was a little confused about two characters mentioned in this episode, and I hope you can clarify someone. Sarah Petrell, who's a little girl who was killed in the cop's past.
Yeah.
And also Nyx. Are they somehow related to the Sense8s? Were they in a different cluster?
There is something about Sarah Petrell that, again, we're getting more information as that goes along. I think it's going to tie into it's going to be something along the lines of him seeing Daryl Hannah in the church, where
he can see this young
where he
girl.
saw it, but there was no evidence, or something disappeared, and so everybody thought he was crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
I suspect that's going to be. Who was
Which
the
one was
other
Nyx?
Nyx was the guy who gave drugs to Riley and seemed to understand her situation of feeling alone.
Oh, right.
And wanting to be alone, but
He might be from another cluster. That was my reading, but again, I think we'll probably find out more about that later. I guess.
I want to talk about just about the ending again. I'm curious, not so much about the ending, but about the build-up. We talked in the last couple episodes about how there's kind of a slow build, and obviously there's a hell of an ending to it. Like, oh, that shit was really cool. I was enjoying every moment of it. Do you think, Francis, as someone who is maybe more critical of it, that made it worth it? Or
Well, that's what I was actually going to talk to you about.
Yeah.
That. It's because you're eagerly anticipating something to draw you in. So when you do get those flashes, which I will reiterate, they're flashes. There's still a lot of airtime between it that I'm still confused, scratching my head. But when you get those flashes of brilliance, not just through the way they look, but when you get that cool premise come to life, like when you get it right, they're linked. I still don't know how they're linked. That's still where I'm waiting. I still would like to get some idea of how this is all come about, because yes, as I said, you need to use your imagination, but every imaginative story has a starting point, and all I get it is it's from the lady with the one shoe still, so I'm kind of figuring out about. But when it finally comes together, that's when I am intrigued, and I sit up and I'm like, okay, now I'm back in. Now I'm finally tuning into it.
I don't know. I feel like if this show were on the Sci-Fi Network, we'd get like a 2-hour pilot, and then
everyone would be in black leather and
they would explain it. Yeah, and then it would become Sliders or something.
Yeah,
not that that's not a show that people want to see, but I'm just saying this is not that.
It's like Heroes started to suck once everyone got together and they stopped living their own lives. I feel like I don't want that to happen in the show. I like the.
I want to ask him, because I've been finding this sort of interesting, that this show is. I admire the amount of male nudity that is going on here because
High
who not?
five.
Something for everyone.
But also, I think that, but in watching it, it makes me realize how, especially in genre shows, the default is always titty time.
Yes.
And so I love the idea that there are like straight adolescent sci-fi nerds out there who are forced to look at some man ass
This is for us,
and
Alonso.
deal with it, and either thinking about that they don't mind seeing it, or that that they are so inured to female nudity as like the wallpaper of this kind of material that it's that it kind of reminds them, oh yeah, this is a thing
this
that's
is
happening.
actually-
You know, it's funny because when I was sitting there watching it, I was like, hey, this is new. This is interesting. Because, when you watch a show like Game of Thrones, I think the ratio is 3 or 4 to 1.
That sounds generous, honestly.
okay,
Yeah,
let's
like,
do
it's like
5 to 10.
No, yeah, 5 or 10 to 1. It's ridiculous.
It's
So
a
go on.
lot. And you do get used to this, like, the sexual creatures are the women. This
Sure.
is what their purpose is for. But then in this one, it's a little bit different. And I was intrigued by that. I don't know if it's because I like something different. I don't know if it's because I'm a heterosexual woman. But
No,
yeah,
well, I mean, I'm a
was into it.
heterosexual
I'm all
male,
for
but
some
I just,
equanimity,
I like people to explore the boundaries, and I feel like every time it does, it's another punch to those douchebags that still are not open to change. So I'm open to it. I'm just like, right, good for you. Continue it. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't put me off it.
Well, Lito and Hernando in their briefs, I was like,
Nice.
well
Lito's
done.
in great
Good for
shape.
everyone. This is
He's in great
happening.
shape.
That's something I admire about Wachowski stars. Ben Tontikver, who's also very involved in this. There doesn't seem to be an inherent sort of bias or perspective in a lot of their work.
Male gaze.
There's no male gaze. There's just the gaze. There's Gaze.
Yeah.
Calm down. Like, I just mean, like, it's just like everyone's sexy, everyone's valid, everyone is awesome. There's not just like we're looking at it as guys. You don't get that.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Tom Tykwer's 3, by the way, which is his, check it out.
I just feel that the show is like, the way that if you were just to put it under a headline is like a 21st century experiment. That's what it is. It's just like an experiment of something that you would never expect to see. And this is what I love about Netflix, because it gives you this liberty to take. And when we come to an idea, a point in our future when we can accept all these different forms, in the fact that we're not surprised by the fact that you see more male nudity than females, and that's going to be a great point to get to. But at this moment, I like to see new boundaries being broken, basically, and who other than the Wachowskis to do it. But what I do want to see, especially going into the latter stages of it, is just, I don't know, it's like I don't want to be, I need a good guy and a bad guy, but I need to know
The stakes.
the stakes and basically what is at stake right here. What is it like? Because I understand that this is going to be something, when they fully control it, is going to be something that's very valuable. Like, you can channel other people's qualities. You're going to be an asset, most likely to the government, most likely to someone else. But who is the person that's basically trying to neutralize this asset? Who is it that's at the moment?
I find myself assuming the stakes based on that clearly goes really high, the people that are trying to stop them.
Yeah, there are people who
we
are
saw
like.
that man.
So that's what I want to know. Is it the
There's a guy who's
doctors?
framing them as terrorists. There are people who are trying to
Dr.
lobotomize.
Metzger,
Yeah.
know.
So can someone explain to me further? Like, so what is the focus of the doctors that is keeping our transgender character at bay?
I think there's a conspiracy that's being unfolded here, and at some point we're going to find out.
I don't think we know too specifically. Obviously, they find these people very interesting, and they want to get into their brain.
Okay.
I think that's all we need to know. Exactly from what? Who knows?
Or they are specifically just looking to disengage their brains from this ability.
Also quite possible, and we will find out. Well, at some point, but we're going to do another review of these.
Yes. So come back for episode 4.
For episode 4.
May Van Damme protect you.
He is Van Damme.
He is Van Damme.